Hello everyone, and welcome to another Leetcode video. Today we're looking at problem Find the Count of Monotonic Pairs 1, which was question 3 in weekly contest 410. I just want to note before we go through the video that this solution will only work for the first version of this problem. Question 4 of this contest was a harder version, but this solution we're about to go through will work for version 1, but not version 2. So the question reads, they were given an array of positive integers nums of length n. We can call a pair of non-negative integer arrays monotonic if they're both of length n, array 1 is monotonically non-decreasing, array 2 is monotonically non-increasing, and array 1 of I and array 2 of I equals nums of I. So a bit confusing, but essentially what we want to do is we want to take this numbers array that we're given, so let's draw it out, 2, 3, 2. And essentially what we want to do is we want to make two other arrays. Let's call them 1 and 2. And what we want to do is we want to find the number of arrays that satisfy a certain condition. So we said nums I has to equal the sum of these two. So let's say we have 0 and 2. The numbers in array 1 have to be monotonically non-decreasing. So this next number has to be at least greater than or equal to 0. So let's say this is 1, and this has to be non-increasing. So this has to be less than or equal to 1. So you'll see we're kind of trying to build out these pairs of arrays. So we want to find the number of arrays that we can build out to satisfy this condition. So let's go into an example and see exactly how we can solve this. So this is a dynamic programming problem. We're going to use dynamic programming to solve it. And how exactly are we going to do this? Well, remember, we know that we have to find numbers that are going to be equal to this number here, right? So for every nums I, we basically want to find a pair of numbers that sum up to this. And not just one pair of numbers, but we essentially want to find every pair of numbers that satisfy this condition. And why do we want every pair of numbers? Well, because we want to find all the possible pairs, right? Not just one possible pair, but we need to find every possible pair. So to do this, we'd have to try every combination. So we could do, for example, 0 and 2. And what would we do once we pick this pair? Well, we can say, well, at least here, this satisfies our condition, right? So what if we move on to our next index and we say, okay, well, we know what happened here, but now we need to, for this index, find some pair of numbers that might equal this. So let's say we take 3 and 1, for example. So you can see that we're using dynamic programming by solving a problem, say just for this one index that we're on, solving the problem of what pairs of numbers can equal this, and then moving on to a smaller subproblem. We could take, for example, 0, 2. Okay, so we see this does satisfy our condition. These do equal 2. So what do we do at this point? Well, now we know that we need to come up with two pairs of numbers that equal 3. However, we also need to make sure that, remember, this array is non-decreasing and this is non-increasing. So what pairs of numbers would satisfy that? Well, can we do 0 and 3? Well, if this condition satisfies, right, because we're not decreasing, but here we know that whatever number we pick here has to be less than or equal to 2. So we know that we can't do this pair. Well, we could do, for example, maybe 1 and 2. Well, this pair does work, right? Because these do equal 3, and this is increasing, right? So 0 goes up to 1, that's fine, and 2 does not decrease, so it's non-increasing. So this is an okay pair. So now we can move over to this next one, right? And then here what we can do is let's just try all the different pairs. So we could do maybe 0 and 2, but again, we know this array has to be non-decreasing, and we see a decrease here, so we know that we can't do this pair, right? So let's get rid of this. Let's try 1 and 1. So here we say this does equal 2, and we see that this satisfies all our conditions. So this is non-decreasing, we go from 1 to 1, and this is non-increasing, we go from 2 to 1. So at this point, we move on. And once we get to the end here, right, we've satisfied this condition. So basically we could say we've gone through the entire array, we found a valid configuration, so let's count this one that we found here. We'll have a little tally, and then we can go back, right? So we'll undo this last choice and say, okay, we saw 1 and 1, can we do 2, 0? well, actually, this is good too, right? Because this equals 2, and this is increasing, and this is decreasing. So this also is a good pair. So you'll see we're kind of just actually trying out all the pairs, but we need to employ some dynamic programming to actually make sure this is efficient, because we're going to run into some repeated subproblems, and I'm going to show you exactly how that happens. So here we've drawn out a section of what our recursive tree might look like for this problem. And essentially what we're going to do in this DP is we're going to keep track of 3 variables, which makes this 3D DP, right? Because we have 3 different parameters that we're keeping track of. So the first parameter is just our index. So this is whatever index we're on at the array. Then we're going to have previous 1 and previous 2. What this represents is the previous value that we placed in array 1 and the previous value that we placed in array 2. And why do we need to have these? Well, we need these because, remember, we need to make sure that array 1 is non-decreasing and array 2 is non-increasing. So essentially what we're doing is, to the next recursive call, we're saying, here's the minimum or maximum value that we can do. And each of these technically is smaller subproblems, right? Because you'll see here, if our previous 1 is 0 and our previous 2 is 2, there's different options that we can pick whether we're at 1 and 1, right? So we need to actually keep track of all 3 of these parameters. But when we do this, you'll see that there's repeated subproblems. So you'll see that we're at index 2 with a prev 1 of 1 and a prev 2 of 2. And we have that same problem over here. Index 2, prev 1 of 1, prev 2 of 2. And the same subproblem here as well. So 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1. So for this reason, we can't just do straight recursion, because we're going to run into cases very quickly where we've already done that work and we don't want to redo it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use memoization to keep track of problems that we've already solved so that we can reuse them later. So the time complexity for these types of problems is a bit complicated, but what I think it is that we have, let's say, n, and n will be the length of our array, right? And then essentially what we're doing is, for each problem or each point in the array, we have to solve the problem where our numbers can be anywhere between 0 and 50. And let's call this m, right? So essentially what we're doing is, for each problem in the array, right, for each problem, so we're going to multiply, we have to solve this problem, right? So we have to solve for all the combinations from 0 to 50. So this is 50 because, remember, nums I can be anywhere from 0 to 50. So we have to try out basically all these number combinations from 0 to 50 for each n that we have, right? So we're going to do, for each n in the array, we're going to do this m operation 0 to 50. So let's hop over to the code and see exactly how this works. So the first thing we're going to do is set up a recursive function that we're going to use to do our dynamic programming. So our base case is that if our index ever gets to a point where it's outside of the bounds of nums, this means that we found a valid array pair, so we can return 1 at this point. Then after that, we're going to set up our answer variable, which we're also going to return at the end. So then what we're going to do is, for I in the range previous 1 to whatever value that we have in our current nums position, right? So say our previous is 1 and this value is 4, we're basically going to iterate through every value from 1 to 4 and check those combinations. So then what we do is we want to get the complement to whatever we're putting in array 1. So say our nums I is 4 and we're going to put 1 in array 1. We know that 3 has to go in the other array, right? So that's what this is doing here, just getting that element that would be in the other array 2. So now what we do is we say, well, if this value is greater than what we previously saw, we can't continue with this configuration, right? Because we know that array has to be non-increasing. So it has to be at least equal to or less than this prev2 value. So essentially what we're saying is, if whatever we would put in array 2 at this point would break that condition, we just continue and we don't continue with that configuration any longer. If it is valid, however, we're going to add to our answer whatever that subproblem is. So we move to the next index, we pass in that I value that we're doing in our iteration, and then the complement there. Then finally at the end, we return our answer. And the memoization is happening from this cache. This is just kind of a shorthand way in Python to do it, but if you wanted to do it manually with a memo dictionary, you could do that as well. So at the end, we just call that function, and we're going to do mod our value to get our final answer. So let's submit it and make sure that it works. And it does work. So hopefully this made sense and was helpful, and thank you for watching.